So I grew up actually in a left-wing Zionist kind of household and movement. So I knew about the occupation, was always against the injustices of the occupation. But it was actually when I met and made friends with Palestinians when I was in Israel proper that I started uncovering the real realities faced by Palestinians across the board. And I understood that the state of Israel itself as an entity, as an ethnocratic state, needed to be unpacked and opposed. And that's where things started for me.
I started gravitating towards, I started learning about the Holocaust at around 10 years old. There were just books in the house and I gravitated towards them. So I started learning about the themes of conditioning and propaganda and dehumanization. And then later on, I ended up going on March of the Living to Poland and to the death camps and concentration camps. So that very much conditioned me, besides for being born an Orthodox Jew and going to an Orthodox school, it conditioned me in the way that Israel wants Jews to be conditioned, that you must always stand with Israel, that Israel has to be there because of what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust. But even with that, at the similar age of 15, 16, I got labeled anti-Israeli and pro-Palestinian just for saying I believe Palestinians should have autonomy and sovereignty. And at some point, I used to consider myself a Zionist. At some point, I realized that that was lies that I believed, it was conditioning that I went through, that Zionism effectively is, not even effectively, it is racism. It's more comfortable to say it now as you unlearn your conditioning that it's fascism. And what Israel has not only doing now, but has basically done since its formation is oppression, is to the point now of genocidal acts. Even I feel like to qualify it with acts, it's quite hard to just say straight up genocide, but it's as genocidal as anything. We're about 50, 60 years after World War II and the Holocaust, 29 years after the Rwandan genocide, and right now we are living through a people having a genocide enacted on them by a fascist state.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate the question, and I think it really speaks to the ways in which Zionism and Judaism have become intertwined, and the kind of pact, a global pact, and the very terrifying fascist forces that seek to intertwine them. So I think as a Jew, I hold my faith very, very carefully. I hold a deep connection to my ancestors, many of whom escaped the pogroms in Eastern Europe, the Holocaust, some of whom went through Auschwitz. And I realize we have to say that, but I don't think we should have to. I think any human being of conscience cannot stand by as the Zionist entity commits genocide in what has been a settler colonial genocide since 1948, and you know, as alongside being a member of South African Jews for Free Palestine, I'm also finishing a PhD on international law, and specifically the international law of colonial genocide and apartheid. And from a legal standpoint, it's unambiguous. And so, yes, as a Jew, we need to assert ourselves because of this weaponization of anti-Semitism in the context where there is genuine anti-Semitism happening in the world, as there is genuine Islamophobia, anti-blackness, anti-queerness, etc., from fascist neo-Nazis, not from Muslims and Palestinians, as the kind of media consensus would have us believe. So I answer your question there in saying I've always been conscientized to the problematics of fascism. And settler colonialism and apartheid. I'm white, racialized as white, South African and Jewish. Yeah. From a legal standpoint, it's unconscionable. From a human standpoint, it's unconscionable. So yeah, I also like my comrades over here, I was in fact head prefect of King David. And so I'm aware of the kind of the grand efforts to conflate that. And I'm so grateful to so many who have led the path for us to resist fascism, to resist genocide, to resist racism, to resist settler colonialism, wherever we see it.
So moving on to the next question, Joe, I'm going to start with you and we're going to move our way over to Mia, right? Obviously, being a supporter, obviously, for, South African Jews for Free Palestine, there must be some form of criticism that may come from, the pro-Zionist or pro-Israeli movements that exist within South Africa and perhaps other structures, that may identify you now as a Jew that perhaps doesn't align with them per se. How do you deal with that kind of criticism, and how do you, find that motivation to continue with the efforts that you guys are rooted in?
Thanks for the question. I think a few things. Number one, there is a lot of criticism, but I think my comrades will agree. We've also seen a lot more Jews becoming interested in joining our call and joining our movement. So I don't think it's all criticism. As to the criticism, I think there is a risk of. I don't know about you guys. I have been called all sorts of horrific names. I have had threats of violence, rape, death threats, whatever, from Zionists. I choose, and I'm saying it here because you asked, and it's maybe one of the first times I've really spoken about it that publicly. I choose not to center that. I choose not to pay heed to that because it is a distraction from the fact that Palestinians are subject to genocide by the Zionist fascist entity at the moment. So I sort of, for me personally, I delete the messages, don't engage. I think there are certain moments, specifically when there is what I think is a very dangerous spread of misinformation, such as that story about the decapitation of the babies, and the media cycles around that are really dangerous in that it gets released, it's fake news. By the time it's retracted, it's too late because it's also already become the precept for genocide. And so I think it's very important to, just to kind of correct the fallacies, and I think as a movement we intend to do much more of that, but also just not to pay attention to those who are trying to derail us from a struggle for justice and to stand with our Palestinian comrades against fascism everywhere.
Please just interject if I'm not answering the question. I found the conditioned biases are so severe that the vast majority of Jewish people simply cannot even imagine that there exists innocent Palestinian women and children. There's just a wide paintbrush stroke that they're all terrorists. And what Israel is doing, what Zionism stands for, is the antithesis of what Judaism or any religion actually stands for. It is the antithesis, if we bring it more clear, of Ubuntu. I've been called a self-hating Jew for showing basic empathy for Palestinians. I've been called a self-hating white for challenging people saying very directly, blatantly racist things. It's crazy amounts of conditioning and unconditional support that people go through. I always use Donald Trump as an example. He has so much unconditional support. He can literally say and do anything, and people support him. And that's the same as Israel as a state.
Yeah, I've been called various things, but I think what I've tried to do when I know the people involved is attempt to have a conversation as much as I can, because I believe in people's ability to shift on this matter. I've seen people shift on this matter. I've shifted on this matter, and there's a lot for me to still learn and unpack. And so I believe that us in South African Jews for Free Palestine, it's part of our job as well to not pander, not equivocate, not let our principles get away from us, but be firm and clear in what we stand for, and at the same time bring people in and say, we see you, Jews of good conscience. We see you. We know you're there. We know you may be scared, but come here. This is a safe space, and this is the right side of history. This is the right place to be. And I think there are a lot of people who are scared. There are people who have messaged me over the past week, friends of mine who've wanted to know more. They're just scared to say certain things publicly. And I'm hoping that with time, we're able to build our movement in the same way that our Jewish comrades around the world are building their movements as well, to try separate Judaism from Zionism very clearly and say that we will not associate our name with the state of Israel.